The Unconscious and Creativity. C G Jung and Spirituality Part 1. This is Shores of Infinity, Chris speaking, with a video about C G Jung and all his methods he used to train the consciousness and have access to the unconscious. Another word for the unconscious would be Castaneda's separate reality, or the vital or subtle world of the Vedic times. About 90% of what's going on is unconscious. Only about 10% is conscious, and even when we're conscious, we're on autopilot most of the time. In our society, in our modern Western society of technology and materialism, the unconscious is something like a taboo. I've delved into Jung many years ago, 2006 to 2008, but I didn't get very far because I didn't find many sources when I was living in India. But now recently, the last 2 years, I delved into Jung again, and funnily enough, two of my best friends and spiritual fellowship of the ring partners, so to say, also started reading Jung by themselves at the same time. And now we have a little bit of a Jung club here going on, and it's very, very interesting. C G Jung was one of the most conscious and enlightened beings of the 19th and 20th century in Europe. And he realized that what is missing in our society is our connection to the unconscious. We stopped doing that. And more natural societies, they still do it. They have always been doing it. And Western scientists have mostly regarded it as superstition or nonsense or primitive religion. It's not. This whole dream thing, for example, of the Australian Aborigines, or the spirit and initiation rituals of going into nature to find the great spirit of many North American tribes or First Nation. They serve this purpose. So nowadays we have to find another purpose, because your neurosis or psychosis is a low-grade religious experience. If we don't go to the spirit comes to us as neurosis. These are Robert Johnson's words, and in Jung's words, neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. Or maybe it's even that if we don't contact the unconscious, the only way it can make itself heard is through suffering or neurosis or psychosis. So once you start paying attention to the unconscious, your mind will be much more sane. So Jung, as a psychiatrist and also for himself, he discovered several methods to safely contact the unconscious and find out what it wants to tell the conscious. The ego, so to say. We're talking about the ego all the time, but not so much about the it, which is a large part of the unconscious. The unconscious is the vital or subtle world. It's much, much bigger than the gross world. So to contact this other world that parallelly exists anyway, if we are aware of it or not, there are methods like dream work, active imagination, art, and others. So now today I want to talk about art or creativity. Creativity is what the ancient Greeks called techne. Nowadays we only use this word for technology, but what he actually meant, Aristotle, for example, is creativity, is to do something creative for its own sake, not to earn money or as a job, not to paint a picture because someone wants a picture, but to just paint it. Now, there are different ways to express yourself creatively. For example, painting, any other kind of arts like sculpturing and so on. Theater play, improv theater, for example. Also games, computer games and strategy games and so on, board games to some degree. Or a more lazy form would be to read a book or listen to a book or watch a movie. That's the most comfortable lazy version, to watch science fiction or fantasy or horror movie. It would be better to write a story yourself, or a poem, or a song. Music, of course, is also another form of expressing yourself creatively. The important part here is not to censor yourself. Just let it out. Let whatever comes, come. Dancing, too. There's so many possibilities to express your creativity, to live your creativity, to be creative, to be an artist. Not professionally, just for yourself, for your unconscious. The unconsciousness is the source of the physical, of the gross, of the conscious. Everything has to be unconscious first, and then it can become conscious. But if you never give the unconscious an opportunity to express itself, it will become apparent, maybe not conscious, but apparent in another way, in a more uncomfortable way, like a psychological disturbance, like a OCD or panic attack or depression or whatever. So we'll talk about dream work and active imagination and other methods later in other videos, but the first I want to recommend something that you can really do by yourself to treat yourself is to be creative, to be artful, artistic, no matter how it looks like or it sounds like and so on, just to do it. You don't have to be a great painter to paint or a great dancer to dance. Just look what suits you as a form of expression and express it. And your consciousness and your unconsciousness will be very happy. The unconscious is waiting for an opportunity. You can even make a deal with the unconscious. You say, okay, you leave me in peace most of during the day and let me do the things I need to do, and in exchange I will give you 1 hour a day, for example, in which you can express yourself and talk to me. What's 1 hour a day in exchange for peace of mind and peace of heart? Okay, that's it for today. I just wanted to recommend 2 things. First of all, the book Inner Work by Robert Johnson, and secondly, a YouTube channel I found of a guy, a small YouTube channel, who explains these things really well. Jordan Thornton, Inner Work. Both I will write down in the description of this video below. Thank you to all my patrons. Thank you for joining me as a Patreon. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing the videos with your friends, and see you soon.